Hi, this is Amy Magyar with FromWithin Coaching. I'm here with two of our affiliate coaches, specifically today to unpack CliftonStrengths developer. And I couldn't be more excited to have you too. I'm here with Coach Augusta Goodcrawl. Hello, hello. And
hello.
Coach Lou Setnicka. And Lou is going to be our guest as someone who has developer in her top 5. So we are so excited to have you on our usual unpacking that Augusta and I do of strengths, but it's so great to have somebody with that strength. So
thanks, Amy.
How are both of you? Good? Everybody's good? Ready for this?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So what I'm going to say, so I don't forget, is this conversation that we do where we talk a little bit about, we go into a little bit more depth as to what each particular strength or theme is. This is not meant to be in lieu of a coaching conversation with a coach, but more so in a chance for you to hear us unpack it and share a little bit about maybe some clients that we've either had with that strength or ourselves, like you, Lou, having developer, what you've noticed in personal things, both personally, professionally. Know that each one of these strengths, how they appear for you or in someone that you're managing or that you love, may show up a little bit different. And that's why it is so wonderful to have people that coach around strengths work with somebody so that you can really understand not only your strengths, but your strengths and how they relate to others. So I got that out of the way. Here we go. CliftonStrengths developer. So CliftonStrengths would describe developer as people strong in the developer theme, recognize and cultivate the potential in others. They spot the signs of each small improvement and derive satisfactions from these improvements. If you had asked me to sum it up in one word, developer to me is potential, potential, potential. I know that's 3, but it is all about what's possible. And for me, that is the epitome of coaching.
Yeah.
Is what's possible. But for me, I'm going to use the P word, potential, possibility, and kind of go with there. Augusta, when you think about developer, how would you summarize it in your words?
Yeah, I think you spoke that one word, potential. Really being able to see that path of development of personal even growth for others, and actually being able to not just see the possibilities, but to see the little steps that are possible on the way. And that to me is just such a beautiful way to describe somebody who's got this talent. And I just love that Lou is here today, because not only has she had many roles in her career, but as a coach right now. I mean, coach is one of the words that we use to describe somebody with developer often. Mentor, coach, teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. And a recruiter as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talking about seeing the potential in people as a freelance recruiter, that is something that, that just comes so natural. So Lou, how was someone with developer, how would you describe it to somebody if they say, what does that mean?
Well, I want to give a little bit of context because I think this is kind of interesting.
Awesome.
I didn't have developer when I've taken the CliftonStrengths, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, and it never ever popped up until the last time I took it, which was about 3 years ago, when I had connected with both of you and had made a formal commitment to being a coach. So I made that commitment to myself. I started working with you guys, and then I took the CliftonStrengths because we had all committed to doing it as a team. And lo and behold, here comes developer. And I'm like, well, that's kind of freaky, So it's possible it was in my top 10, just sort of bubbling there at number 6 or 7. But now it's very exciting because, as you know, our whole goal of exploring strengths is to land in roles where we can leverage the heck out of them so that, we have greater engagement, greater fulfillment. So exactly as both of you have said, as a coach, when I get a client and we have our initial conversation together, I'm always thinking about the what ifs for this person. So that's kind of the potential. I think in the descriptor, it says straight out, you see the potential in others. So that is why I don't think it's why I'm drawn to coaching, but it's the coaching has given it the opportunity to help me leverage it so that when I was faced with the scenarios that are in the Strength Finder assessment query, when you first do it, I'm looking at them differently. I'm looking at them as a coach now with coaching eyes on and coaching hat on. So that was to me very striking.
Will you do me a favor? And for
Sure.
our listeners and viewers, will you share your ranking of top 5 for Clifton Strengths?
Yep. Number 1 is arranger. My second one is responsibility. Number 3 is belief. Number 4 is developer. And number 5 is positivity. Awesome. So all of those 5 are super useful in the profession that I'm in right now, being a coach, but also in some of my other work in the HR world. As an HR professional, which is what I did before being a coach, or maybe simultaneously, I do believe in the potential of others. And it's interesting because the fellow who first introduced the Strength Finder assessment, this guy named Marcus, when he first introduced it, he did it in this book, which is now out of print.
She so subtly said, this man, Marcus Buckingham, people.
Oh, yeah.
She knows Marcus
I love
Buckingham.
That guy, yeah. Anyway, this is when he first introduced the 34 strengths. And in the back of the book, he talks about how to manage a person with this strength. And I was just rereading it this morning for developer. And it's very interesting because he says, I, as a developer, may protect a struggling performer for a lot longer than is probably appropriate. And it's absolutely true. Like in working in employee relations in HR, I'm always trying to, I think you can do it. I think you can fulfill this job. And that's where a developer lives, as opposed to someone else who's a little bit, doesn't see the potential in others, who might cut it off more quickly.
If I may, because I think that there's something I've been asked before, the difference between a maximizer and a developer, because sort of 50,000 foot level, both appear to be very similar in that it is all about potential. However, what I will say is with maximizers, I think that often what they seek is they seek the good and want to take the good to this whole other level. And developers don't just seek the good. They are open to everything. They see something teeny tiny in a person and say, you want to focus on that? Let's go get that. And you can sort of expand it and not be limited in your desire to help someone grow. So I could see where that could be an interesting sort of, your strengths dialed up a little high, is that idea of you have somebody who has almost so much potential, but they just can't get out of their own way, and they're considered a lower performing employee. But your belief and faith in them is so much greater than their own that you hold on to them, and you hope that maybe they'll see that. And I think, I do think, and I'm going to let sort of Augusta chime in here, but I think the beauty of being this developer is that you are so loyal in that way of just no. And I think that is, we'll ask a little bit more about how you see that showing up in other professional sides, but I want to make some space for Augusta to ask you some questions. But that's the other thing I think that, if I had said loyal from the beginning of my description of developers, somebody would be like, what, really? But I think that's so beautiful, is that you're loyal not only to the person, but their potential.
Yeah. Can I say one thing, Augusta, before
we talk? Absolutely. No.
That going back to this potential thing, as a coach, we receive clients who view themselves in a certain way, or view themselves as sort of being slotted into a certain profession. And the beauty of having developer in your pocket is you see the potential for them potentially in a different industry, in a different kind of role, in a different kind of enterprise that they might not have ever thought of themselves in before. But because you have developer, you're kind of their cheering squad.
Mm-hmm.
And as we develop their transferable skills, which is some of the work that I do with folks, it's all of a sudden they go, oh yeah, you know, I just had this recently happen with a client who had spent their whole profession in retail, and they had never viewed their potential in marketing.
Yeah.
So helping them see the potential of their success in putting on the marketing hat. So that's the developer, that's the potential part showing up.
Yeah. No, I love that. And it makes a lot of sense. I was just writing down some notes, you know, as far as, you know, being in HR and having this background, but also having the strength, you know, it's so interesting because I have individualization in mind where I believe in the potential, but to everyone's own individual way of being. And so it's kind of, I was just musing on that. How different is that than developer? Whereas you know, for me, it's like, I believe in that individual in such a way that my coaching, my goal is to help them develop that self-trust within themselves so that they can move forward. And I see developer, like what you were just saying, is if someone can't see how their potential could be, you know, shining brightly in a different type of career, you can actually help them see that. Whereas I almost see individualization a little bit like there's not really, it's just so interesting. I was just thinking about that, the differences between the two.
You know, the other dimension that I think about with developer is it's not just individuals or people. When I think about organizations, when I'm hired to come into organizations and see the potential they have either through their culture, their philosophy, their values, that fires me up too. I mean, I like nothing better than to get hired by a client that is struggling where they are, but as the developer person, I can see the potential of them being able to get to where they want to be. So just helping them with that. So it's another sort of dimension of this strength.
Yeah, absolutely. It's seeing the potential in the collective. It doesn't just have to be that individual. Yeah, I can imagine. And then that is something that's, you know, very much tied into who you are and who you've been as throughout the years in HR and what you do now even.
Yeah. It can be frustrating because you see the potential and they're like, why aren't you going there?
It totally. So, there's almost a, I do understand that.
Yeah. Then it becomes a really rich conversation because then you're talking about the barriers about getting to your potential. And that's where I love that kind of work. Like talking about the barriers, what's preventing you from getting there. You have all this potential, or your organization has all this potential. Let's kind of pull those barriers out and put them on the table and dissect them. That's fun.
So I have an interesting question. I know some of the strengths we talk about, you know, are they're what motivate us. Our strengths, they give us energy, and there are places where when we navigate from them, we're, you know, it's more effortless. It's not taking energy away from us. We're just energized. And sometimes we talk about exterior motivators, some strengths being, you know, you're more exteriorly motivated or interiorly. So when I think about developer and how we're talking about it, you're really discussing individuals or you know, the collective, a culture, a company. How would you say you work with developer within yourself or for yourself?
Oh, great question.
Yeah. I'm pretty hard on myself, to be honest. I think it has a lot of overtones of perfectionism. So where I work on myself is about patience around maybe not reaching a goal or stumbling when I'm heading to a goal and saying, you know, it's okay. Maybe you're going to veer off in a different direction and that's going to be just as rich as something else. But the development for me personally, like I feel like I don't want to stop working. Like people keep saying to me, now, wait a minute. aren't you kind of semi-retired or something? I'm like, no, there's always more to learn. There's always more ways to grow.
Developer right there.
There
Yeah,
it is.
exactly. So
love it.
So that's
wonderful.
that's why I keep going. And
Yeah.
I just feel like there's so many more people to meet and so many more challenges to face, and they all have the potential to make us a better human being at the end of the day. So
Absolutely. That was beautiful. Yeah.
thanks.
So love it. I think, it's interesting. I'm going to give a little data here. According to CliftonStrengths, it ranks number 12 on the list of the amount that it shows up. And interestingly enough for me, it appears in 21% of females versus 11% in males.
I read that also.
So I think it's interesting because I want to clarify something. Coaches don't fix, right? We don't fix. We see potential, obviously, with someone who has developer, maximizer. They take it to this whole other level, but they don't need to fix the person. They want to help create awareness for the person. And I think that perhaps that may be something where that tends to be a little bit more of a gender specific sort of mindset, which is support the awareness versus fixing the issue. And so I just wanted to share that because I think that's interesting in terms of how it shows up in you as a coach, in how that may show up in a leadership role where you think someone has developer on your leadership team, it's like, oh, they're the fixer. No, they're the champion. They are they're the coach, the cheerleader,
right.
All of those things. I think one of the things though, Lou, and I'm wondering if it's ever come up for you professionally or personally, is if you have a developer on your team and they're constantly striving for sort of what's possible, could that be taken as they're not satisfied with what is? And I don't know if that's ever been something that you've been challenged with in terms of, Lou, it's enough, or Lou, aren't you satisfied? So I don't know, I'm just making that up, but I'm curious if that's ever come up.
Not so far, but I could see that it's possible. If there was a lot of that, I would wonder, is there something they're avoiding?
Yeah.
That's would help bring direction and focus. I'm not saying I don't believe in slot hiring. I'm not saying you got to stay in this job for the rest of your life. Absolutely no. But if they're a little bit like they stay one place for 6 months and do another, that restlessness. So what do they truly seek? What is going on there? So that would be what I would like to explore with that person. Not that I'm a proponent of you got to stay in the same job for the rest of your life, believe me, but what's causing this? I don't want to say dissatisfaction, because they might actually be quite satisfied in moving around or gaining different skills and strengths. But is there a reason why you haven't sort of landed at one of these and land and then flourish, maybe maximize yourself? So that would be fun to explore.
I'm going to do this at the end of our sort of, as we start to wrap up, I'm going to challenge both of you with this question. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but I just want to see what you both have to say. In theory, CliftonStrengths has identified developer as a relationship, sort of in the relationship bucket of influence, right? And versus, sort of the relationship bucket of leadership and sort of domain of influence. Interestingly enough, there is an influencing domain as well. And one might think that a developer is more an influencer versus it's sitting in relationship. I'm curious for you all, why do you think it's in relationship versus influence?
That's a tough question.
That is.
I'm not sure you said there were no right and wrong, right?
No, of course not. No.
I have a point of view.
Please.
I would put it in relationship because going back to the cheerleader part, the belief, like I believe in you. So we talked about at the very beginning, I believe in the potential of this person. So my hand is extended to you. I believe that you can do this. You will figure out your potential, as opposed to influencer, where perhaps the influencer would be saying, follow my lead, or I'm gonna make you go this way, as opposed to it coming from the person themselves, which would be the more authentic choice.
Yeah.
Augusta, do you want to chime
Yeah,
in?
that's beautifully put, Lou. And I must agree with you on that, because it's how we show up with others in a way that allows them to be that way, to move toward that potential, instead of where I see influencer, just as you said, would be like, come, let's do this, kind of hands-on, kind of moving and manipulating. This is kind of showing up and just hands-off, believing and allowing.
Yeah, we talk often about coaching as leading from behind. So I do view that in developer. Like, I got you, but you're the one pointed forward. You're the leading this conversation. I'm just right here to hold you up. So that to me would be developer, as opposed to influencer. I'd be around in front of you and I'd be pulling you. I'd be saying, come on, let's go. Come on.
Consulting,
Yeah, there's the difference between coaching and consulting, right?
Yeah.
And they both, they weave together very often.
Of course.
And as you're saying that, developer can kind of maybe exist in between the two, but it lives in relationship. And I think that's certainly why.
Yeah. Do you have a point of view, Amy?
Yeah.
On this?
I think what's so powerful about this, both of you just nailed it. I'm going to tell a quick story as we wrap up here of one of the most amazing men that I know in my life, Robert Nash. Happens to be a incredible professor at the University of Vermont, recently retired. But he's also, I'm probably most proud of being a grandfather. And the story that he told me once is that he had a grandson who shared with him that it was more important for him to be believed in than it was for him to be loved. Because when his family said, I loved you, he said, that's great, but you sort of have to, because you're but to feel believed in. And I think that what's interesting is that I may change from potential to the word believer, is that I think a developer is a believer in people. And if that's what creates the relationship and creates the connection, is to have someone believe in you. Sometimes that can be annoying when you don't believe in yourself, but how powerful that is when you feel believed in. I truly believe anything is possible. Yeah. So for me, that is why it's relationship and not influencing, for then all the other reasons that you also threw in.
Yeah.
So
great.
Wow.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
We'll do a quick wrap up. Lou, what takeaway from talking about developer? Any aha moments or anything that you just want to share as a developer that you want those that may be interacting with developers to know?
Well, I loved Augusta's question about where is developer present for yourself internally, like the external, because a lot of my strengths are external focused. And that was a really good question. Thank you for asking that, because it gave me pause to think about, where am I developing myself? So thank you for that.
Sounds like a good coaching homework that you just gave her, I guess.
Yeah. Thanks, Augusta.
Well, you're so welcome. And it's just, I always find it, I love the strength, actually, developer. I really do. And I really love, in my wrap up, Amy, what you just said about believing, because that to me just sums up how I feel about everything. We all, coach, we love to do this, but bottom line, I know and you two also believe that everyone has their own resources, they've got their own potential, and we believe in them, and showing up that way for someone is incredibly powerful. Yeah And for ourselves too, and
especially for ourselves, right? If we can't develop ourselves, right, and give ourselves that almost like self-care of that belief in ourselves, right?
Definitely.
What a way to end that. I thank you both. Lou Setnicka, incredible career coach, professional development, executive coaching. Augusta, always good to have you here. You were so incredible. You not only use strengths as well as values and beliefs as well to help people with truly helping them find their foundation. And a little bit different than some of the career coaching we do. What's amazing is you help create foundations that then Lou and I can then work off of with some of our clients. So
Thanks.
if it weren't for you, we wouldn't have
Exactly.
anything to work off of. So I thank you both for being a part of From Within and being a part of today's unpacking of developer. Please use this as well as the companion guide that we have about your strengths. This is just a 20-minute conversation on developer. We could probably develop developer for another hour.
Absolutely.
Have for you for
Yes,
now.
sorry.
Please reach out if you'd like to go in deeper. And thanks again, ladies.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Amy.
Bye, guys.